Happy Monday. Thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to join us today. We're just going to be running a little pre registration information session to help prepare as registration is coming along. My name is Sydney, and I'm one of the graduate assistants here at Dornsife. And I'll go ahead and pass it to Ernestina to also introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ernestina, and I am a first year graduate assistant.
Again, thank you all for being here. And just a friendly reminder, as Jessica was saying, we are going to be recording this session for students who weren't able to attend today. So if you wanted to turn off your cameras, whatever you felt comfortable doing, please go ahead and do so at this time. And we'll go ahead and we'll get started. So I'll go ahead and I'll pass it to Ernestina here.
Hi, everyone. So we are going to start with our roadmap for today. We will be going over several topics relating to the pre-registration advising. We will review what is pre-registration advising, who is your first year advisor and how to set an appointment with them, and how to prepare for pre-registration advising. We will also be looking at how to check for holds and what to do if you have them, how to access and navigate web registration, and where and how to find placement exams.
All right, so just a little overview of what pre-registration advising is. So pre-registration advising, you may know it a little bit more familiarly as mandatory advising, but pre-registration advising is a really great resource and opportunity for you to meet with your FYA advisor and discuss academic planning for the spring semester. Pre-registration advising is really important. This is a good time to ask any questions that you may have. Ensure that you're on the route for timely graduation or other plans that you may have, and to also ensure that you're taking courses that are going to contribute towards your degree completion as well. You may want to start considering scheduling an appointment as soon as possible. The closer that we get towards registration time, chances are appointments for meeting with your advisor, they are going to be filling up fast. So you want to ensure that you try to get your appointment with your advisor as soon as possible. Ideally, you do want to meet with your advisor before your registration date. That way you're all settled and hopefully you can get your questions answered before registration actually occurs.
Right. So who is your first year advisor? Your first year advisor is based on your major cluster and your last name. If you're unsure of what cluster you belong in, you can use the list of majors to figure out which one you fall into. You can visit the Meet the FYA team website and you will be able to see all the advisors from the first year advising, as well as which cluster they advise in. You will also be able to see their email address, their educational backgrounds, and different fun facts they shared about themselves. How to schedule an appointment. You can schedule an appointment in one of two ways. You can visit the USC Dornsife Academic Advising website, which will lead you to the Meet the FYA team page we mentioned in the past slide. From there, you can click on the appointment link, usually found beneath the team group picture. Or you can go directly to the appointment page through the link found on the screen. Please note that advisors have directly emailed students, reminding them to schedule an appointment as soon as possible. Time slots are filling in quickly the closer we get to registration, as Sydney has mentioned. Advisors have also included directions on how to schedule an appointment, so please check that out if you need further assistance. We will now move on into reviewing the steps on how to schedule the appointment. Once you click on the link, you will be asked to input your USC login credentials. Once you're on inside, click on Appointment on the left-hand side. Then you will click on Request New Appointment. You will now check mark your counselor and then click on Check Availability to view available appointments. An important note to take is to only checkmark your own counselor. Do not choose another counselor even if they have your desired appointment time. Also, please make sure you leave the desired date and time options clear because that will limit your options and might cause the advisor to seem unavailable. Once you click on availability, you can click on choose to select appointment type, and then you will input reason for the appointment in additional notes. You will then click submit request to confirm appointment. And finally, please check your USC email for your appointment confirmation.
All right, now we're going to dive into preparing for pre-registration advising. And one of the tips that we have for you is to review your STARS report. Your STARS report is a neat little document that has a great summary of your academic progress here at USC. And you can access this by going to My USC, navigating to the OASIS tab, and over here you'll see STARS report. And if you click it, it will generate your STARS report. And some of the information that you can learn from your STARS report include degree requirements that you have completed, degree requirements that you're currently in the progress of completing, degree requirements that are still outstanding and need to be completed, the number of units you've needed and completed for degree completion, your GPA, some of the coursework that you have transferred in, and more information as well. So this is a really neat document that we highly recommend students take a look at ahead of time. You can get a quick gauge and snapshot of some of the information listed here. Now, the STARS report does have a lot of information, so we do want to give a quick overview of how to actually read the STARS report. So an important keynote here is it does say that the blue text in the STARS report identifies degree requirements completed or in progress. And text in red are actually going to highlight outstanding requirements that you still need in order to graduate. Now, it is important to note a lot of the stuff will probably still be red, just because there are things, for example, you may not reach 120 until you're actually very close to graduation. So 128, that may still be red, but just something for you to keep in mind as well as you're reading through your STARS report. Now over here, it will tell you that there's a minimum of 128 units needed for degree completion. And then it will also tell you below how many units you may have earned towards that degree completion unit requirement. It will also tell you how many upper division units you are required to complete for degree completion. You will see it does list 32 here. And then also it will tell you how many undergraduate units you have to complete at USC, which is 64. And it will also tell you how many you're currently in the progress of completing and how many you still need for degree completion. It will also tell you that you do need 104 units of your degree to be earned in the College of Letters, Arts, and Sciences as a Dorn-Scife major. And so this is just something to keep in mind as you're currently enrolling in coursework. And it will also tell you, as you can see over here, how many units you have earned towards this Dorn-Scife requirement and how many you're in the process of earning towards that requirement. It will also list more information here, such as some of the coursework you've completed, some coursework that is applicable to your current declared major that was accepted in transfer, and courses that you're currently taking in progress. Another good thing to review as you're currently preparing for pre-registration advising is to review your holds. Now, holds are what they sound like. They're holds on your account. Some do restrict some restrict registration, some don't. So it is really important to get familiar and to check if you do have holds ahead of time, because you do want to ensure that you're resolving holds in a timely manner. If you're not sure where to look for your holds, you can go to My USC, navigate to OASIS, and you can go over here to where it says restrictions. And if you click on this, it will generate a list of any pending holds that you have. Or you can also go to My USC and navigate to web registration, and it will also list some holds that you have. Just to reiterate, it's really important that you review holds ahead of time. You do want to try to resolve them with your advisor in a timely manner, because there are some holds that will restrict registration. And so what that means is if you have a hold that restricts registration, you will not be able to register for your classes, even if your day to register has come. So you want to ensure that you try resolving any holds that do restrict registration before your registration date. If you have not met with your declared FIA advisor yet, there's a chance you may have an advising hold. And an advising hold can be lifted after you meet with your FIA advisor. So if you haven't met with your FIA advisor yet, I highly recommend that you go ahead and start scheduling an appointment to meet with your FIA advisor. That way we can go ahead and get that advising hold lifted for you so that this won't restrict your registration when registration does come around. And again, as you're preparing for pre-reg advising, you may want to prepare a list of questions to ask your advisors ahead of time. And these are just a list of some questions to consider. You may want to check if you have any holds that are restricting registration. And if you're absolutely not sure whether your holds are restricting registration, this is a good question that you can ask your advisor. And if you do have a hold that's restricting registration and it is not a mandatory advising hold, you may want to ask what the process and requirement is for resolving your holds. Another question to consider is how many units you need to complete for your degree requirement. If you're interested in a major or minor, who can you contact? How to get involved with student organizations at USC. If you're taking a look at your STARS report ahead of time and you're noticing that some courses aren't being displayed on your STARS report, or if something is inaccurate, you want to let your advisor know promptly so that they can go ahead and assist you in resolving that. And if you're not seeing certain applicable transferred coursework being reflected on your STARS report, you may also want to bring this to the attention of your advisor as well. All right, now we're going to dive into the nitty-gritty of registration. So a really important piece of information to know is when's your registration date? And you can find this by going to My USC, going to OASIS, and at the bottom here, you will see Permit to Register. If you go ahead and click on that, it will generate when your time to register is. So you do want to know when your registration date is ahead of time. That way you can go ahead and bookmark that date on your calendar or whatever tool that you use. That way you don't forget to register for your courses. All right. Now you're going to utilize web registration, which is the platform that all students are going to register for their courses on. And if you go to My USC, there will be a tab on the left-hand side that says web registration. When you go ahead and open up web registration, it will generate this sort of list here, and you will see that it lists the different schools at USC. So if you're looking for courses that are going to be offered in Dornsife, you want to click this drop-down menu here listed next to Dornsife College of Letters, Arts, and Sciences for a list of Dornsife courses. If you're looking for GE classes, you want to navigate down here to where it says GE requirements for students beginning college in fall 2015 or later. It's important that you pick this one instead of the one that says GE requirements for students beginning college before fall 2015, as this GE curriculum is not applicable to you. So you want to pick the one that's beginning in college fall 2015 or later if you're trying to look for GE classes. All right, if you search up a class on web registration, there's a lot of information that is listed. So we're just going to give you a little overview of how to read some of this information and some things to keep in mind. So you'll see here, if I looked up an economics class, and I'm using Econ 203 as an example, there's a lot of information that pops up. And one of the main ones that we want to highlight is the type of class. So you'll notice here that Econ 203 has multiple different types. It has a lecture and it has a discussion. And if you are seeing that a single course, such as Econ 203, is offering multiple types of courses, multiple types of sections, you want to ensure that you register for one of each section. So in order to register for Econ 203, I need to register for a lecture section and a discussion section. If you miss one or the other, web registration is going to register that as an error, and it's going to block you from registering in the course. So you want to ensure that you enroll in one of each type. Now you will see that it lists a lecture and then it lists a bunch, oops, I apologize. It lists a bunch of discussions below that lecture. And then a lecture again, discussion, and so forth. You want to ensure that you enroll in the discussion section that falls directly below your lecture section. The reason for that is these discussion sections are going to correlate with this lecture section. So if you register for this lecture section, you want to pick one of these 6 discussion sections. If I register for this lecture section and I pick one of these discussion sections down here, web registration is going to register that as an error because these discussion sections don't correlate with this lecture section. So just something to be mindful of if you're registering for courses and they have different types. Additionally, you want to also be mindful of the registered list here. So this lists the number of seats available in the sections and the number of seats that have already been registered. So for this lecture section, it says 79 out of the 150 seats that are available have already been registered for. So you want to look to ensure that seats are still available. If you notice that a section says closed, that means that there are no longer available seats and you don't want to pick those sections because there are no seats to register for those sections. Additionally, what you also want to keep in mind are clearances. So you'll see here next to the section number at the top that there's a capital R next to the section number. A capital R is going to denote open enrollment, which means that you don't need clearance to enroll in the class. So assuming that you have the prerequisites, if there are any, and you've satisfied those prerequisites for the course, you should be able to register for the course. Now, if there's a capital D next to the course, the section as denoted here, that is going to denote D clearance. And what that means is you will need to have clearance in order to enroll in the class. This is important to keep in mind because you want to ensure that you have clearance ahead of time if you're interested for a class. If you don't have clearance by your registration date and you try to enroll in a class that does require D clearance, web registration is going to block you from enrolling in the class because you don't have the clearance to enroll in it. So if you are looking at classes or you need a class that requires D clearance, you want to ensure that you try to request clearance ahead of time. That way you can optimize your chance of getting the necessary clearances that you need prior to your registration date so that by the time registration does roll around, you're already cleared for your classes and can register in them. Lastly, this is a little tool that we wanted to point out. This is the My Calendar tool in web registration. So it can be found on web registration if it's one of the top tabs here. So if you click it, it will open up the calendar tool. And this is a good tool because it lists out all the classes that you have added to your course bin, and it will actually show you them based in time. So if you have courses that have a time conflict, they will be denoted in red, and you can see an example here. And if you're seeing that you have courses that have a time conflict, you want to try to resolve them in a timely manner. So for example, you may want to consider switching around your courses so that they're no longer conflicting with each other. And the reason that this is important is because if you have 2 courses and they have a time conflict with one another, web registration will also block you from enrolling in those courses because they have an overlapping time. So prior to registration, you do want to check your calendar to ensure that you don't have any time conflicts. That way we want to mitigate any potential restrictions of web registration blocking you from enrolling in your classes. And again, if you do see a time conflict, you may want to consider moving around your schedule a little bit or trying to see how you can work your classes so that you can fix that time conflict. These are some registration dates to keep in mind. Registration is going to correspond with the number of units that you have earned. And if you're not sure where to look for this, you can check your STARS report and it will list the number of units that you've earned. If you have earned 30 to 36 units, your registration date will be November 7th. If you've earned 23 to 29 units, your registration date will be November 8th. If you've earned 16 to 22 units, your registration date will be November 9th. If you've earned 10 to 15 units, your registration date will be November 13th. If you've earned 3 to 9 units, your registration date will be November 14th. And if you've earned 0 to 2 units, your registration date will be November 15th. And then again, it is important to note that if you do have an early registration date, you want to meet with your advisor earlier. That way you can accommodate for your earlier registration date as well.
We will now be looking over placement exams. There are 3 placement exams that students can take at USC: foreign language, math, and chemistry. To learn more about the exams, please visit the Dornsife Language at USC website. Once you're in the main page, click on the Foreign Language Testing tab. You will be able to scroll down to the Taking the Exam and click on the link provided. This will take you to the exam calendar where you can see all the upcoming exam dates and all the information of where and when it takes place. Please note that students must wait 6 months from their last placement exam in order to retake it. Lastly, students with documented learning disabilities or physical impairments requiring accommodation must contact the USC OSAS office at least 2 weeks prior to the testing date. You can also access more information on the math and chemistry placement exams by clicking on the non-language testing tab. This will also direct you to the same events calendar that has the foreign language exam dates. Please note that you may need to take a math and/or chemistry placement exam if you want to take a respective course. Consider completing the placement exams prior to registration so that you can have a score and be ready to register to the appropriate course. Upcoming exams. Foreign language exams are taken in person, while math and chem exams are taken online. Placement exams take approximately 10 business days to receive a score back. And an important note to remember is that foreign language scores are valid for 1 year, chemistry scores are valid for 2 years, and math scores do not expire. Now we're going to look over a sample of a spring semester schedule. When thinking about your sample schedule, we typically want to aim for about 16 units per semester. An important note to remember is that the foreign language requirement needs to be completed before you finish 64 units here at USC to avoid receiving a hold. As you can see, one of the classes should include either a GSEM or the Writing 150 course. It all depends on what you took in your fall semester. A foreign language course is also recommended, but that again depends on your exam score. Your last 2 classes can include your major courses and/or a GE requirement. When planning your schedule, please check the schedule of classes and be prepared to have alternative classes ready in case your chosen course fills up. It's always important to have backups ready in case that happens. You can also review a sample course plan by visiting the Dornsife Undergraduate Academic Advising website and clicking on the Resources tab. There you will find a sample course plan template that you can use, as well as the sample course plan relating to your major. Remember, you will be able to discuss your spring course plan in more detail during your advising appointment with your advisor.